Look around you, and you will see a world full of glass houses, a society of individuals who have constructed their entire sense of self on foundations so utterly fragile that a single breeze of adversity, a single rejected application, or a single shifted algorithm can shatter them into a million unrecognizable pieces. And this happens because from the moment we are born, we are conditioned to tie our identities to external, uncontrollable variables, attaching our worth to the dead weight of job titles, bank balances, relationships, and the fleeting applause of strangers, essentially building a skyscraper on a swamp without ever calculating the structural load or the compressive strength required to withstand a seismic shift in reality. To build an identity that is truly unbreakable, an identity that doesn't just survive the earthquake, but uses the kinetic energy of the shockwave to forge itself stronger, you have to fundamentally demolish the way you perceive your own existence and stop identifying as a static noun. Because if you define yourself solely as a student, an executive, or a creator, you are handing the power of your identity over to circumstances that can fire you, reject you, or cancel you, leaving you entirely hollowed out when that title is stripped away. Instead, you must become a verb, a relentless, dynamic process of execution, where you do not say, "I am a successful builder," but rather, "I am the force that constructs order out of chaos," shifting your internal architecture so that even if the business fails or the project collapses, the engine that built it remains entirely intact and ready to compile a new reality, free from the syntax errors of self-doubt. This requires stepping away from the infinite loop of seeking external validation and realizing that the most critical programming you will ever write is the code of your own self-trust. A ledger of kept promises where every single time you say you are going to wake up early and you actually do it, every time you commit to a grueling habit and follow through, you are laying down psychological rebar, reinforcing the concrete of your characters so deeply that the opinions of others simply bounce off you like rain off a titanium vault. You must treat your daily routines not as casual suggestions, but as a rigorous, unyielding algorithm that governs your trajectory. A system so perfectly calibrated that it tracks your actions with the cold, calculated precision of a machine, eliminating the emotional static that causes so many others to short-circuit when the pressure mounts. You see, an unbreakable identity is not forged in the comfort zone of easy victories. It is hammered into existence through voluntary hardship, requiring you to intentionally subject yourself to stress testing, to walk into the fire of difficult conversations, grueling physical exertion, and steep intellectual challenges, deliberately loading your own system with resistance so that you learn exactly where your breaking points are and how to push past them. When you adopt the mindset of a masterless warrior, someone who answers only to the highest standards of their own internal code, rather than bowing to the shifting moods of society, you reclaim the ultimate power over your own life, understanding that true leverage doesn't come from manipulating others, but from possessing a mind so strictly disciplined and deeply rooted that it cannot be manipulated by fear, greed, or insecurity. Most people are terrified of the dark, terrified of being alone with their own thoughts, because they have never taken the time to curate the inner sanctuary of their mind, allowing weeds of anxiety and the rust of complacency to degrade their mental infrastructure. But you are going to be different. You are going to engineer a mindset that operates flawlessly under pressure, recognizing that every setback is just a variable in a massive, complex equation that you have the absolute power to solve. You must audit your daily actions with brutal honesty, stripping away the parasitic habits that drain your focus and replacing them with non-negotiable daily protocols, understanding that motivation is a myth and discipline is the only true currency of the unbreakable, meaning that whether you feel inspired or utterly exhausted, you execute the plan because your identity is no longer tied to your emotional state, but to your relentless commitment to the process. If you want to build an empire, you don't start by painting the penthouse. You start by digging the foundation deep into the bedrock, and the exact same principle applies to your psyche. As you navigate this journey, you will encounter critics, skeptics, and people who will actively try to pull you back down into the swamp of mediocrity, because your upward trajectory highlights their own stagnation. But your unbreakable identity acts as an impenetrable shield against their projection, allowing you to observe their criticism without absorbing it, processing their doubt not as a stop sign, but as the raw fuel required to accelerate your own growth. You must realize that the ultimate expression of power is not the ability to control the external world, which is inherently chaotic and unpredictable, but the absolute sovereign mastery over your own internal state. the ability to stand in the absolute center of a raging storm, feeling the wind tear at your clothes and hearing the thunder crack around you, yet remaining perfectly still, perfectly focused, and completely detached from the chaos. Because you know that the foundation you stand on was built by your own hands, tested by your own trials, and cemented by your own blood, sweat, and relentless consistency. This level of self-mastery demands that you stop outsourcing your happiness and your self-worth to the volatile markets of public opinion, that you stop waiting for someone else to hand you a permission slip to be great, and instead, you seize the authority to author your own narrative, writing your own rules of engagement, and executing them with a level of precision and ruthlessness that leaves the rest of the world entirely in awe of your resilience. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of your reality. And every time you choose action over apathy, courage over comfort, and truth over the seductive lies of convenience, you are reinforcing the unbreakable fortress of your mind, ensuring that when the inevitable tragedies and failures of life come knocking at your door, they will not find a fragile, shivering victim waiting to be rescued, but a formidable, unyielding force of nature ready to turn that tragedy into triumph. So, take a hard look in the mirror right now. Strip away the labels, the titles, the excuses, and the comforting illusions you have used to protect your ego, and ask yourself who you truly are beneath all the armor. Because the unbreakable identity you seek is not something you go out into the world and find. It is something you chisel out of the raw marble of your own potential, day by day, rep by rep, choice by choice, until what remains is a masterpiece of unshakable resolve, a testament to the fact that you have mastered the hardest game of all, the game of conquering yourself. And in doing so, you have made yourself entirely impervious to the changing tides of the world, standing tall, unbreakable, and absolute for the rest of your days.